There we go. Okay, I will, I guess, call the meeting to order and do a quick roll call. Commissioner Branson,
Here.
Commissioner Crosby,
Here.
Commissioner Hofda,
Here.
Commissioner Carey is absent. Commissioner Workington is absent at this. Oh, wait a second. Let me see. He's trying. Okay, let me. Gary, I'm promoting you to panelist, so you should pop in here. So Gary is here. And then Commissioner Cole.
Here.
Okay, great. And let's make sure Gary can get in. Oh, yep. Okay, welcome, Gary. I'll make sure he can hear us. And I think Scott was chair last time. There we go. Hey, Gary.
Hi.
So I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer or how you want to. We just need a chairperson to run the meeting and keep us on track and potentially help us set agendas for future meetings too.
I think Scott's doing a great job. Should just
Thanks.
hand it over.
Do you have the bandwidth, Scott?
Sure, why not?
Okay, let's just make somebody make a motion, and then if do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay. All right. Any second?
Second.
I second.
Okay. All in favor? Or
Aye.
any? Okay. I guess I should have said any discussion. Sorry about that. Gosh, I need to be not the chair. And then any opposed? Okay, Commissioner Crosby, you'll be the chair, and I will let you go ahead and take over the meeting.
All right, well, thank you for appointing me the chair. Could we get a minute to approve the minutes? Take a look at the minutes from May 12th, 2021.
Sure. We do have one person attending, but I don't think they were wanting to say anything. If you do, just raise your hand as an attendee, and I will let you talk. But I don't think they were just going to listen in. I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, and yeah, we'll go ahead and review the minutes. That would be great. Sorry, the minutes were kind of long last time. I didn't summarize very well, apparently.
Yeah, lots of projects.
Yeah.
I move we accept the minutes.
Sounds good. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Perfect. And then I guess we'll move on to the water treatment and distribution projects from Chris. And I guess before we do that, we probably should all make sure we can open up that attachment on the email so we have it in front of us. But
Yeah, I've heard that sometimes it's hard to open those attachments, and I don't know if it's because I'm using a different form of Word, or sometimes the PDFs don't open. But if anybody needs me to resend any of those, let me know and I'll get going on that. Wow.
Don't we have to vote on the minutes?
Oh, yes. First, we have a first and second, but
all
I
right,
call for a vote.
sorry about that. Thank you, Karen. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes approved as presented. All right. So I was able to open up the attachment just fine, but so Chris, your projects.
Okay, hi, everybody. The biggest update I have for the water treatment plant is our water production keeps going up every year. As you know, our city's growing, so I think the biggest thing is we need to start looking into a facility update to increase our water production so we can meet demand in the coming years. So our water rights in the river are 2.6 million gallons per day. And we can produce a 1.8 million gallons per day. So I think if we do some kind of an upgrade to match that, we'll be good for the next, I can't say, but few more years, hopefully. Depends on how much we grow. And we're doing a UV project here at the water plant, but that hasn't started because we're waiting for equipment and parts. And that's, as everybody knows, that's hard to get things in a timely fashion these days. Our high-level pump station up at the end of Espinosa Street started a couple weeks ago, and they're still waiting for parts, and we're waiting for PG to plumb some power up in there for that to get finished up. And that's about it for the water and water distribution. Oh, we have a reservoir going in, which hasn't started yet, to serve the upper elevations like above Cemetery Road and Deuce Road, those new subdivisions. So in the process of getting property easements, whatever that might take to install a new reservoir for over in that area. Anybody have any questions on the water side of things?
Have you figured out a lot then for the upper level reservoir? I mean,
I think there's somebody at the end of Lawrence Road in that area that we're working on, but I don't think it's 100% completed, so.
We have a preferred location and we're working with that property owner, but there's a big process of appraisals and then a review of the appraisal and things like, so there's a kind of a process that our engineer is working through with that property owner, but they're agreeable to it. So it's looking positive, which should be great to have that location locked down and get working on construction.
so look at the agenda from last time. We did get funding for that, correct, too? So it's not a loan or anything else that you guys need to do first?
That's a good question. Because we were yes, we had enough to put towards it this year. It seemed, I have to check on that. That's a good question. You stumped me.
I want to say it was in the budget for this year, but finding the property has been a challenge.
Sure.
Yeah. And it wasn't, there was some of the funding that was coming through, the special funding that we were going to use like half of it to go towards this. So I will double check with Sadie on that and get back to you. Since Sadie is our finance director. All right.
I can move on to wastewater if you have no questions there.
Great.
Okay, wastewater. Well, we're starting to experience growing pains pretty badly down there with our biosolids handling and everything else. And city council approved a new facility plan update to rebuild a wastewater plant way out on Folsom Road, kind of around the Eagle Creek Golf Course area. So that is the approved plan through the council. And I think it's at DEQ's, it's in DEQ's hands right now, waiting to be approved by them. And then once that happens, then I guess we'll attack that as sooner the better. I'm sure we're gonna run into a lot of roadblocks putting a wastewater plant way out there.
Yeah.
Costs a lot more. We'll still have to pump all the wastewater from our existing location to that direction. And the next challenge, well, between now and then is our biosolids. So I'm looking into buying some new equipment to handle our liquid biosolids, turn it into a cake-like product. So we'll have a lot less capacity issues there. And that's going to be pretty costly. I just got a quote back from one company and it's over $300,000. But it's going to come on a skid mounted system, that something we'll be able to use at the existing plant and move it over to the new plant whenever that gets built. So that's kind of our plan for the wastewater.
So I know that Melanie sent the video out to us from the city council meeting that they had, I don't know, a few months ago, I think it was, or and they talked about the 3 different options being the existing location or where the city lot's at, Hypel Road, and then also Folsom. Was there a reason why they didn't include or talk about the rock pit? And that seems strange to me. I don't know why. Was there a reason why that's not part of it or a contender?
Melanie, do you have that?
Yeah, I was gonna see if you wanted to speak to that. One of the options was going in at the industrial campus, and that one was for some reason that's like something that we could do fairly easily. The rock pit is a great location because it's nice and low. I think the city council really wanted to push north because that's where the growth in the city is going. And so, and our engineer Kurt agreed with that. I can't remember what the roadblock was at the rock quarry because I don't know if there was not property to be bought there. We reached out to PGE because below the dam, but in PGE's property there off of River Mill, we thought that might be a great location because there's lots of competing priorities with. It has to be a good location for how the growth of the city how everything can get there, how it gets in the river. Is it going next to residential areas or what might be residential areas in the future? So there was a lot of talk about that, but I'll have to look back and see why we just stopped working on the rock quarry idea. Unless you remember that, Don or Chris, why we didn't.
I think we were getting a lot of pushback from the residents that live out there on Farmstead and that area.
Yeah, I remember it being a land issue was
Yeah.
what I remember as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you, Justin, because
You're going to get pushback from any people that live in the area, I think, anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think it was a pushback necessarily. I think it was literally we couldn't get the land is what was the issue.
And that could happen out at Folsom also. We're hoping that there's some property owners there where people are spread out enough that we could get a piece of land that's not going to be noticeable to the other residents. People might not even really realize it's there because it's surrounded by hay fields or something. But if that could be the stopper with going out to Folsom also. I think our fallback is to go to put it where the city shop is now. I know city council was really trying to protect that area because it's right on the river. It's a great tourism location. People want to be able to enjoy the river, and there's always, even if odor is mitigated, and we can make it look pretty and we can mitigate odor, but it's still not going to be perfect in regards to that. So they decided to go push out farthest that we could. And our engineer did agree with that. And then we'll see if we can overcome the roadblocks we encounter. And then first one being DEQ. And go on. Anybody else want to comment on that? Justin, did you have anything else to say?
This probably came up at some point, maybe the council meeting, but I'm not aware. How do we deal with, and since it's outside the urban growth boundary, is the county involved, and is that going to be an entanglement that we have to deal with?
Yes, that will be an entanglement we have to deal with. Our engineer, again, is working in another city where they're doing something similar and putting it out in the county. And so he's familiar with the process, and he has sent us some information. I think it was from Clackamas County Planning that would be helpful. And so he's going to walk us through that process. But that is one of the things we'll have to overcome initially, getting the property, finding the property owner who's willing to sell in a good location, and then working with the county to make sure that we can meet all their requirements. Getting a new mixing zone in the river. I'm not sure who manages that, Chris, but
DEQ.
DEQ, okay.
Mm.
One thing about being out there is, well, I was thinking this might be a good idea. When Bill Elliott was here, he always talked about wanting to pipe the water or effluent out to to the golf course, so that we didn't have to put it in the river during the summer when the water's the lowest. And if we were close to the golf course, that might be handy if they were open to that irrigation. But we'll have to see how that all comes together. We just need to push forward with it because we are on a time constraint where we need to get it moving forward. And find out if we are going to come up against roadblocks that we can't overcome, and revise our plan until we actually get it done.
Have they calculated how much expense that's going to add to the project? Having it way out there?
Yes, they did. It was a few $1 million, I think. I
I
can't.
think it was around $8 or $9 more million
Mm-hmm,
Wow.
just to move it out that far.
mm-hmm.
And that's just estimating right now. So
Right.
it's gonna be quite a difference in cost.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a hard time listening to everything on that video. It seemed like the audio was real quiet, at least for me, but so I couldn't quite understand all the numbers that he was saying. But you already mentioned though, like about the river, and I think it was mentioned in the meeting that all wastewater treatment plants are always by the river because it's the low point, and so everything flows downhill, right? And whether it's at the plant, the city building right now, or the rock pit, or Folsom or Hype or wherever, I mean, it's always going to go downhill. It needs to go downhill. I just think, man, it seems like a long ways to go, and a
Yes,
way
it does.
bigger, more impact on people, neighbors, community than the rock pit, where that's, I think it's roughly 300 acres or something like that down there. And what's going to happen with the rock pit when they're done making rock? And if we
That's
could
a
get,
good question.
a few acres, a 5 acre, 10 acre parcel or something, I don't know. It just seemed strange that it wasn't discussed. I do understand the time is of the essence, but
Mhm.
The rock quarry was discussed, and there was some kind of roadblock, like I said, that they were basically telling us no. This other partial is down by the river, and it was a larger spot that we were looking at, and it was the one that the engineer did recommend as well. He said that there might be some more hoops to jump through, but overall it would be the better choice, just because it was like, we looked at the industrial area too, and it was like, okay, no, because then we got to pipe it all the way to the river, where this one was like down, just like what you're talking about, the rock quarry. But yes, it is a lot longer of a run back up. But seeing the growth boundaries and stuff, the engineer, like I said, was like, yeah, this would probably be the better location, since the rock quarry is not really an option. I think we have to probably go back, and maybe Melanie can do that, where she can look at it and
Mhm.
figure out exactly why. But if memory serves me right, I remember it was some kind of land issue, not willing to kind of work with us.
Mhm. I could share my screen real quick and kind of show you what the area on Folsom, if that would be, just not to bog down on this, but just to kind of show you a little bit. I think I can share my screen here.
Yeah, the area on Folsom was within 1,000 feet of the river, so that was one benefit.
Yeah, can you see that?
Closer.
Yes.
So this is Folsom coming in, if I'm right. Yeah, Folsom, and then where our engineer was looking was kind of down. it seemed like it was like, here's the golf course, and it was kind of down in this area,
Yeah, correct.
right? Okay.
Yep.
So, but like you said, wherever you put something like that, there's going to be concerned people. So we'll have to work with stakeholders. We just need to start working through the process as soon as we get that back from DEQ and see where any roadblock might be and if it's overcomable or if there's a better option. So that's kind of where we're at.
Is there public right of way that could be used, or is gonna have to get easements of all those property owners? Or has that been figured out yet?
There was a road that they were talking about.
Mhm.
I don't see it on this map or anything, but there was supposedly something that led down there. This map doesn't really show it as well as the one we seen, but there was something that led down there.
On the current facility plan, it showed a straight pipeline from our wastewater plant to that area. So you'd have to do easements through lots of different properties.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Mhm. A lot of it, well, yeah, I'll have to look
And
in
you
that.
have to do access, manholes, all that kind of stuff. So
Uh-huh. Because here we are.
Yeah, and the distance between there and, I don't know, I'm just gonna probably beat that dead horse, that Estacada rock thing, and it's so close, and it's so close to the river, it's downhill, it's like,
yeah,
Well, work that out for us. Do you have any, let's talk, if you have ideas, 'cause, right now we're looking up north, and that is where the growth is going. Because here's the Deuce Road up here, which is to the north, and if we expand any farther, it would likely go north. But that's still, Folsom's still, it's a ways out there, so. I have
But you know,
confidence. Oh, go ahead.
Melanie, there is another area that we don't think about here, and that's the other side of the river for development. And the problem with it is the sewer. How do we get the sewer line over there? Because we already supply some of those people with water.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, we might want to investigate whether PGE will allow a sewer line go across the dam, or else we do it like they do some of these suspension bridges and put a big suspension unit up there and fly it over the river under this with those cables. And that would affect matters too. Depends upon how we go. Otherwise, we'd have to haul the sewer waste in big heavy trucks around across the bridge, down the highway, and get to wherever we were going with it.
Mm-hmm. True. Do you have any comment on that, Jeff, about the use of the dam or any ideas?
You gave me a heads up on this one, and I reached out to our dam safety department, and they assured me that it would be a very large undertaking with our regulators to modify the dam for such utilities and it probably wouldn't be looked on favorably from FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Body that we report to. So it's not that it couldn't be done, but it was a long shot.
Okay. So probably like Ralph, you mentioned the bridge. We have been looking at putting the pedestrian bridge over the river at some point, and that might be an idea. Although this area right here doesn't leave a lot of room for expansion, like to the north would. And our engineer did see it, more likely. We're doing a housing needs analysis right now, so that will help us with knowing about our 20-year supply of land, and whether we need to look at expanding our UGB, but more than likely it would go to the north. That's where we're thinking. So I don't want to bog down this too much. I know there's a lot else to talk about, but I will look at how I'll go back, because I think, Justin, you're right. There was some reason why we abandoned the rock quarry idea. I just can't recall what it is right now. But wouldn't hurt to double check on that again, and then I'll get back to all of you about that.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that sounds great.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing there.
I don't have any other questions for Chris. Does anyone else? Hearing none, then let's move to Dawn on your public works project update.
Hello. This past 2021, we finished Overlook Park off of Overlook Court with the playground, dug the giant dirt mound down, made it ADA accessible. We also finished Gardner Park, the one on the northeast end of Gardner. We planted hydroseeded, planted grass, did irrigation. We put arborvitaes in along the property line to the, I guess it'd be the south, and more irrigation there. We paved ginseng. We did a grind and overlay the whole entirety of the road. We upsized US Bank's sewer main. It had a really leaky, had a bunch of I&I coming through it. They were having clogging problems. And so we upsized their main, put 3034 in there, and then upsized the service laterals to the commercial size. So if that lot to the west ever develops, they'll have a brand new 6-inch service. We finished the 6th and Main Street intersection. We took it from that big wide sweeping corner to a nice clean area. It makes it a shorter walk for the kids crossing the street. Looks a lot cleaner. Made a bike or a bus parking area on the one side so where they can get on the bus safely. We had a couple emergencies last year. We had the ice storm in mid-February that we spent quite a bit of time on. And then we had a sewer main break or a water main break out in the industrial campus behind Northwest Technologies. We worked 18, 20 hours on that straight. That's about it so far for the projects. Anybody have any questions on any of those? Next, I'll move to subdivisions. We have Cascadia 6 off of Curran Creek Drive. That's going down into the canyon. It's going to connect Faraday Hills 1, or I guess it'd be Faraday Hills 2. And so then you'll have a complete road all the way from the cemetery area out to Deuce once those are both complete. And Cascadia 6 is roughly 65 lots. Faraday Hills 2 is 65, and then they finished Faraday Hills 1, and it's almost built completely out. And then the industrial campus number 3, phase 1 and now 2 are being worked on. Curbs are poured, water's in, sewer's in. And then Curran Creek Estates number 2 is in progress. I think they just sent the paperwork in so they can put their final plat in. It's been paved, it's got curbs, sidewalks, everything in there. Anybody have any questions on these subdivisions?
I have one.
Yep.
I think I've asked this multiple times, but do you have an approximate date when that road might be completed between Faraday Hills and Curran Creek Drive?
It was looking like March, which is not going to happen. One of them is moving a lot quicker than the other. Faraday Hills 2 has curbs poured, but they're still working on sewer and water. In Cascadia 6, they haven't even started water yet. I just had a meeting out there last week to talk over the water plans. So I'm going to guess early to midsummer would probably be the date around there.
Good.
But it should be done this year.
Is
And
Curran-
then any other questions?
Is Curran Creek Estate number 2, is that up on top, closest to like Lawrence and?
Yep.
Independence, okay.
Yep.
Uh,
Kind of deceiving. It's got Curran Creek in the name, and there's Curran Creek
Yeah.
Road right down the road from it.
yeah. And I think it was last year, you guys did an updated map with all the subdivisions that were going on, and then
Yep.
also what was planned and kind of what was in process of still engineering. Could you guys update that map to where, okay, maybe we could see kind of what happened from last year?
Yeah, I think
the things actually got developed and
I think-
finalized.
Taylor was working on that. Taylor and Matt.
I'm going to share my screen again. I think this might be what you're looking for. So this is on our website. Curran Creek. So it shows the subdivisions and what their status is. So it's just cityofestacada.org /projects.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if you can click on it. Oh, you do. It tells you what it is. And then you can look down below and see where, wow. Oh, so it's
Okay.
going older. So as I scroll down, it's getting older, it looks like.
Sure.
And then the newer ones are at, where's North Brook? I don't know. Anyway, so that's kind of handy. And I think that Taylor is keeping that updated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we get a copy of this somehow?
Yeah,
Are you-
I could send you the link if you want, or if you just go to
Okay.
I'll send you the link too. But if you go to cityofestacada.org and
We can
then
get it off of that.
yeah, then just I went up here and just did a / and projects and hit enter
Okay.
and it pulls up this page. But I'll send a link.
Thank you.
Okay, stop sharing.
Thank you.
Then for the remaining projects this year that we have planned, we have the Wade Street from the library to 6th Street. We're going to be repaving because it's kind of that really plotted out road, pitted out. And then we're paving all the way and putting curb lines in on both sides. And we're going to connect from the pond basically to 6th to where it's a nice, complete streamlined project. Finish out the sidewalk on the west side, on the park side, to where we have a nice walking path for the kids where they're not hitting gravel or having to walk on the road. And then we're in the works now. I think Kurt was working on getting a permit from the state for the replacement of the sewer lines across the mill property, which is like 2,450 feet of sewer pipe because of I&I problems in there. They're going to slip line it instead of digging it up, where they pull a pipe inside of it and they cook it in place. Then they send an RC car out to cut the laterals out. So that'll be all new pipe and that'll cut down on I&I quite a bit. And then the last one, we're going to keep on installing the radio read meters. We're still about 500 meters short. The guys got to go out every month, read 500 meters. But it's just the building, we ran out of money in our meter funds. And then they're building houses so quick, we can't really keep up. So I have to budget for the remaining 500 meters. And they're pretty expensive. So once we get done with that, there'd be no more manual reading anymore. And that's about it.
Are you making the developers pay for those meters?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think that's how it is. It's part of their, whenever they build a house, they call Tracy and then she charges them for it right off the bat. They're about $250 a piece, roughly. But the radio meters that went down, the old meters used to be around $50 to $60, and then these ones bumped up to $250. So we bought everything to replace all of them in town, but then we had so many building permits coming through that we had to use those meters, and we just haven't been able to catch up yet. So. Yeah, any questions?
I have a couple of safety issues, I guess. There's the eternal problem of a left turn lane at the Cemetery Road and Copeland Road. A really dangerous corner there from both directions. And the other thing is at the end, I think it's Gardner Drive, where you enter Cascadia Estates, that one, the main entrance.
Yep.
If you're coming down that hill and have a problem with ice or snow or anything, there's no barrier or anything down at the end of that.
Yeah.
And all you're greeted with is a cliff.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few people go over that ledge.
And so just a reminder, I guess, it needs something, these should be, even if it's just some signs, there's no reflective signs or anything at the bottom.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea with the reflective signs to let people know they're approaching the end of the road. Signs. Okay.
We did
That's
want to kind
not
of talk to you guys about paving. I kind of want to we want to pave a street a year, try to catch up with the bad roads that are in town. We kind of wanted to get your guys' ideas on bad roads. Ginseng, we hit it when we did, just because if we waited any longer, it would have been a complete road rebuild. but I was just hoping we can kind of spitball and kind of find the next project area. I have little projects planned, but nothing big.
The road in front of the fire station is in pretty bad shape.
Jeremy Lovelace.
Yeah, the one that goes straight across in front of the station. That would be Jeremy, I think.
Yep.
Jeremy.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Because I think the Main Street project, it's like, what is it, 2 years away?
I think it's only a year away, but still, yeah.
It'd be good to hit some of the side streets coming off that to make it
Mhm.
a complete project. Instead of going off a brand new Main Street down a pothole road from a fire department.
True. I think we could also add into that, I don't know for sure, but like maybe that Cemetery 6 and Copeland, that intersection, that might be, I'm not sure if that fits the qualifications for your project list that you're looking for, but that might be.
Yeah, there's a pretty deep hole on the east side of that. Of Cemetery right at that intersection.
Yeah, I think the guys just filled it with cold mix, I think last
Did they?
week. It's been a hard time to put cold mix in, the temperatures being the way they are.
I know it's not a very high traffic area, but there's that Boulevard Way that's right above the cliff.
Oh, yeah, like the gravel road?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that'd be super nice for those homeowners there.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been talking about some of the gravel roads in town.
That one in Cliff Lane also.
Yeah, and then we got Nymph on Lakeshore, the
Yeah.
last chunk of Lakeshore. That would be nice.
Mm.
We have some down on Up Cemetery on Glen Court. The road's completely failed to where the clay is pumping through really bad. We can't even actually sweep the neighborhood anymore because we're taking up more road than we're actually sweeping. So that's going to be a repair. And then I plan on doing some soft spot repair again down Main Street. This probably next budget year.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thinking where
There's
the
like-
court was at.
There's like 6 feet of that mucky gray clay under there, and it's bad. We fix one spot and then it'll sink right next to it, and it just needs to be completely redone, but we'll wait till the Main Street project to hit the whole entire thing at once.
Yeah, Glen Court is, you go up Cemetery, take a right on Edge, is that Edge Hill? No,
Yeah, Foothills.
Foothills, and go straight on up to the end there.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not like a high impact area where many people are gonna notice it, but we have some little spots like that around town that we really need to be aware of and, maintain those for those small little neighborhoods.
Well, some of that asphalt up there on Edge Hill and Foothill, that's some older asphalt too, right?
Yeah, it's bad. It's in bad shape. It's past the point of putting crack seal down.
Mhm.
Bunyard Court also, isn't that?
Yeah.
They were kind of hoping to,
Both.
yeah, somebody had mentioned taking out that center island, just making it a roundabout. I wonder how we could prioritize these or get your opinion on prioritization. If I could put together a little survey and then maybe we could meet again in a month. Would that be too soon, a month or 2 months? I don't know how your timeframes. But if we could, because that was going to be on my list too, on the agenda, was to identify and prioritize. I put future SDC projects because a lot of those are, but a lot of those are happening anyway. But just projects that need to be done, that sometimes it takes us a long time to work through projects. And if we can have like a list that's a couple of years worth of work, then we can be checking off and making sure that we're keeping the right things prioritized, and you guys can help us make sure we're not missing anything, or that we're getting some feedback from you on what those projects might be best to be. Would that be
I know for us,
reasonable?
for our company, we do that. We'll have customers that will call in that are requesting faster internet. And so we always make a list of it. And then come budget year, in the fall, we'll go through that list and we'll look at, okay, well, which one should we try to prioritize the most that have the, highest impact or worst service, or you name it.
Mhm.
I don't know, do you guys have a public comment on projects as well on your website that you could kind of promote and give some?
We haven't really. We have, like, as a project comes up, we'll have public comment if it's a big project that is affecting, like our Main Street. I was going to bring that up. We want to do the Main Street revitalization project with the Urban Renewal Board, City Council. And so we are wanting some feedback on that, but typically that's how we get our feedback. And so I think to reach out to you all to help us with feedback on prioritizing projects would be a step in the right direction. We do get calls once in a while, kind of random that we keep track of, but not probably as to the degree that you do. We have in a bigger service area there, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you guys be open for a meeting in another month?
Yes, I would.
Mhm.
Okay. And then maybe Dawn and Chris and I can kind of put together some ideas and get those out to you ahead of time. And we could somehow get a prioritization going, because we're going to be, we're doing budget right now. And so if we're going to do, what are we going to do? We're going to do the cemetery intersection. Are we going to do Glen Court and Bunyard Place? Are we, how should those all get prioritized? And so maybe even, take a little drive around, see what you think. Maybe we can add in there's other projects that we've missed. But yeah, why don't we plan on, is Wednesdays good? I think Wednesdays are hard for you, Gary, but I always tend to pick a Wednesday for some reason. Are you good with Wednesdays, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's do that. Any other thoughts on that, Dawn? Would that be okay?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay. Let's do that. And then I wanted to just share, I guess we're done with Dawn's project. Sorry. Are we getting ahead?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if anyone had any other questions for Dawn.
I like to ask the eternal question, when is the Hillway extension going to be done? We need another access from that Cascadia Ridge development instead of just Cemetery Road. I know it's in the master plan, but I don't know what the time frame is.
Do you want me to talk, Dawn, about that a little bit?
I
Okay.
think you know a lot more than I do.
Okay, that was on my list. So it's at engineering right now, and I think the plan is to do it this summer.
Oh, good.
The school is also working on the ball fields, the community ball fields back there, their North Sports Complex. And so if we do the Hillway project and they're working on their driveway, in fact, I had suggested, I shot an email to our engineer and he was going to reach out to Mike at the school about if we're paving and they need to pave their parking lot area, which they do, that might be something that we could partner on and save a few dollars if we do it, if it coordinates at the right time, because we're planning to do that Hillway extension this coming summer.
Great.
So yeah, that'll be good. Between that and the Curran Creek extension out to Deuce, then that should hopefully lighten the load a little bit on the Cemetery Road intersection.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for you, Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
The new buildings they're building down on Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any idea what types of rentals those will be as far as apartments? Are they going to be high dollar, low income, or?
They're market rate, but the owner of the property, Heath Stahlcup, in fact, I think there might even be a video from that meeting when he was talking about it. He his philosophy is keep rents really reasonable so you don't have turnover. He'd rather not raise rates and lose renters and have to redo the apartments and rent them out again and lose time. And so his philosophy is to rent them at reasonable market rates, but you know, kind of not high dollar. So that's
Yeah.
the plan. And there'd be 2 apartments on the bottom floor and then 4 apartments up top.
So what are they gonna do for parking on those?
There are 7 or 8, I can't remember, parking spaces that will be in the back that will kind of tuck around into the back of the building. And then the commercial space on the front will just have on-street parking, which is another conversation that I wanted to bring up because the Urban Renewal Board is wanting to redo, or they're planning to revitalize Main Street, get that going this year with engineering, design, public feedback. I need to get some funding for that, and then to redo Main Street and potentially add some parking, which would be like up on Main Street. There's diagonal parking on one side instead of just parallel parking, and so we're looking at it would reduce the width of the sidewalk a little bit, but be able to add some additional parking spaces on Main downtown. So we're going to be looking for feedback on that, community feedback. There's not a scheduled meeting for the Urban Renewal Board yet, but it'll probably be coming up March, I think, maybe the end of March. So they will have parking. They don't have a ton of parking. It will be, they'll meet the requirements though.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other questions for Dawn? And then I guess the floor is all yours, Melanie.
Okay. Well, since we kind of talked about identifying and prioritizing future projects, we'll work on that and get you back together in a month. But I also wanted to just give a quick report on Wade Creek Park is moving ahead. The community building, we're still looking for donations because we got a matching grant from the Ford Family Foundation up to $200,000, but we're only at like about 118,000 right now. So we're trying to fundraise, reach out to organizations or foundations that could, and we've had a lot of donations just from individuals, but you know, everybody contributes what they can, but it's hard to really stack it up until you can get maybe a foundation that would make a larger donation. So we're working on that. That should be, we're planning a grand opening for middle of July, probably there, which will be a lot of fun. Denise is actually on a committee. It was a design committee. We thought it was for construction, but they're still in design for the Eagle Creek Road, Deuce Road intersection, which is going to be seeing a lot more traffic and isn't a fantastic intersection in the first place. The county is bidding. They went out to bid for a design, or they did RFQ for design company to get that design. And I think it's in the next year or so, they're going to be reconstructing that intersection. So that will be good news there. We just talked about Hillway. That's at engineering to be done this summer. I believe are going to get a CDBG grant. We're on the recommendation for approval list, but I haven't seen the confirmation yet to replace ADA ramps uptown on Broadway and Main Street, mostly Broadway, because a lot of those are, if there is a ramp at the corner, a lot of them are substandard. Sometimes there's not even a ramp there to help people with their, moving around town. So we're gonna, I think, get a grant for that. That's a project the county would run, and we just contribute 20% of the cost of that. And the TSP, our Transportation System Plan update, is supposed to be starting. It always takes a long time because we have a what are those called? The Transportation Growth Management Grant through ODOT, and they typically take a long time to get up and running, but it's taken an extraordinarily long time right now. And so that is very close to starting, and so we'll involve you guys in that. We'll be needing some community members, I'm sure, to be on a advisory committee for that. And we also will be putting together some criteria for speed bumps and traffic calming, because we've had requests for a long time on Lakeshore, and now on Oakview. I can't remember if it's the one word or the two words, but if you go at 4th Street and take a left on Oakview, that neighborhood is concerned about traffic speeds. We've put the traffic trailer out there that shows people their speed. I'm not sure if that was really effective, but we're trying. The council has set a goal to prioritize getting some data back. So like if we would get a trailer that not only shows them their speed, but then sends it to us, then we could verify, yes, this is a problem area, and what are the best methods. Should we put up a sign, that those signs that flash and show you your speed, or just say slow down is usually what it tells me. And then, or, you know, is it some other kind of a engineering thing, a speed hump or a bump out? What would be the best thing to do to calm the traffic? But we do need some data versus just anecdotal to go ahead and move forward with that. But the council's prioritize that. And any other safety areas like Cemetery Road intersection. One of the counselors mentioned coming past River Mill School. I drove through there the other night and I wasn't quite sure what could be done. So brainstorming on, you know, areas that we might need to put a little more focus on for safety or for maintenance. Those kind of things that we could prioritize would be helpful from your perspective. I think that was everything on my list. Is there any other questions or anything that Councilor Gates would like to add? Okay. Okay, well, I haven't left you very much time then, but commissioner reports or comments or anything that you want to talk about or recommend?
So I know I talked to Chris Lewis a few weeks ago, and we're talking about just all the different projects that you guys have going on and some of the concerns. And I probably should have brought this up earlier when he was talking about the water and the water treatment plant. Have you guys ever thought about, naturally the most amount of water that we use in the year is in the summertime, and that's because people are irrigating their lawns and their yards and their gardens and whatever else. And I would assume that most of the water that's being pumped and treated is going to be going towards grass, which doesn't need to be treated and could be a lot less. Better use of water. But my question though is, have we ever talked about or thought about doing like a grant or some sort of program to promote like artificial turf for people instead of having, you know, fresh grass or ryegrass or whatever? Or maybe we came up with a different program where you work with the developers and say, hey, you know, we'll give you a tax credit to put in, you know, turf for the front and back, just because you know that it's going to create so much more water usage. And then maybe it might help us stretch our plan out a little bit longer.
That's very interesting, because I would think we were in a drought. I guess it was a drought up in Seattle when we lived in Seattle in the 90s, and they weren't allowed to water their lawns. And so people started painting their grass green. It was like a new business that some entrepreneur came up with. We'll paint your grass green. It was awful. But that new turf that they're putting in is pretty nice. Yeah. You know, you can't really tell till you get up close to it. And then, you know, there's low maintenance, it washes off with the rain. That's a very interesting thought.
Well, you know, I've been down to California and Nevada quite a bit, and you know, you can drive through neighborhoods and you have no clue that most of them are all artificial, and it's because of water constraints and restrictions.
I would be interested
right?
I'd be interested in doing that in my yard. you know, it's getting too hard for me to mow it. It'd be a lot easier to have it not have to be mowed.
Yeah,
Well, maybe the city could come up with a program where they offset some of the costs. You know, I have no clue what it'd take. to
yeah,
put-
how would we do
Sure.
that? But that's a great idea, so thanks for bringing that up.
You know, maybe you could do some sort of grant or something, or
Mhm.
again, a tax credit, or I don't know, something. Here,
Mhm.
you'll get a reduction in your water bill for however much less usage. The other thing would be is, you know, maybe there's some local grass that we could use that's water less, doesn't need as much water.
Mhm.
It still stays green. And so, you know, again, the city worked with a local seed manufacturer and said, hey, you know, again, going to these developers or to the residents, and listen, we'll reseed your grass, but in return, you know, you're not supposed to water your grass more than once a week or something. Again, trying to just promote conservation.
Right. Clackamas River Water Providers does some constant, like a outdoor water audit to help people not overwater and help them to analyze what kind of yard they're putting in and stuff. But that, you're right, with all those houses going in, and I would guess most of them have an outdoor sprinkler system. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
I'm just thinking, you know, maybe we could save, you know, who knows how much it's gonna cost to increase our capacity of treating water, you know, with,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a somewhat different process there, so.
Yeah, good ideas. Thank you. All right,
What they do on your projects, I can't remember, was there a splash pad put in up there in Wade Creek?
there is not. We were talking about that, getting started on design for Campanella Park, which is making Chris a little uncomfortable to think about putting a
Yeah.
splash pad.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but because you can recycle the water, but the research we've been finding about that is that it takes a lot of manpower to keep those going. But if we think about just letting kids run a splash pad all day and run that water down the drain, that's also a little disconcerting. So it's in the plans, but we're, anybody has any ideas on keeping low water usage at a splash pad in the summer? I guess they wouldn't be running the sprinklers at their house to let the kids play in. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Chris isn't buying that.
I don't know. I just know that it seems like the citizens are always asking for that,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about projects.
Yes, and it is in design actually right now. It'll be going to Parks and Rec and doing some public outreach on the design elements for that park, and probably I think it was like next year or the following year that it would be constructed. So coming up with ways to conserve water across the board and expand our capacity at the plant will be helpful.
The other thing too that I wanted to mention, and I mentioned this a few years ago, but something that I think for the city, sorry, and I know we're getting a minute to our deadline here, but have you guys talked about more of pushing these developers to make an HOA and holding these HOAs accountable for putting in these parks instead of the city always doing it? I think that's an expense that the city's putting on. We're not really getting anything back on it. But if you have some of these big developments and you make the HOAs do it, you know, then it kind of passes it off to them and
Mm-hmm. If anybody else wants to speak up, go for it, because I just keep talking. We do have, like, so each home that is built pays a park SDC, and if the we do we have a HOA? We don't really have HOA parks, do we? There's one teeny tiny one that's down in is that Current Creek 2 or I think, yeah, down, so if you go up Cascadia Ridge over Gardner down and to the right, there's some, they put in one there, it's the HOA, thank goodness, and it's teeny tiny little playground. Is that the only one, Dawn?
That's Cazadero Heights used to be HOA, but then they expanded, and I think the city took over that park.
Mm-hmm,
It's the only one I know of,
mm-hmm.
and it's not a park. It's more of just an infant slide.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not, you wouldn't even know it if you looked.
that is, oh, the one that's down, the new
Kern
one,
Creek,
yeah.
Yeah, Kern Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah, so we have been working with developers. The council wanted to prioritize that, having them make sure there's parks in, because they'll put in like phase 1, 20 houses, and it's like, okay, they probably don't need a park for that. But then by the time they get through the 6 phases they're building, then it's like, yeah, there should have been a park in there somewhere. And so working with developers to make sure they either put one in. We haven't really required the HOA to do it, because then they kind of kick the rest of the people out who might want to stop in and play at the park. But we do, as we're building up the city parks, that we do have, you know, people have options to go to a city park, and just because they might like a HOA park, they may or may not be welcome there. But that is another, we haven't utilized that option, but it's out there.
Just thinking, all the projects and developments that we're gonna have here still in the future
Mhm.
along the Eagle Creek Road and Deuce Road, I mean,
It's a lot.
pass it off on the HOAs, on the developers,
Okay.
and let them do it. I mean, I
Mhm.
just don't think it's a big expense for the city to have to maintain versus, you know, when I lived in Portland, you know, I really enjoyed having the HOA. It just basically was like an insurance that, one, for the city, but also for the homeowners, that your property is gonna be look nice, and all the
Mhm.
homes around it will look nice. And then, of course, you have some amenities too by having some slides and swings and all that stuff. So,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
One thing I think is with an HOA, it kind of depends on how large an area they're covering. I mean, how many houses, whether they could cover that kind of an expense for each household
Mhm.
for building a park. I mean, if it's thousands and thousands of houses, then yes, they could spread it out pretty well. But if it's 100 or so houses, then it would be harder.
Mhm. We do, Campanella has an HOA, but they don't, the city owns the park there. Although the developer built what's there so far the developer built, but the city maintains it. And then Cascadia Ridge has a HOA for all their, you know, just their general edges of the road and stuff like that.
What about that park up there off of Gardner? Is that the HOA's responsibility? I know the city did work there, but when it comes to like putting in playground equipment and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, that is a city, it's a city park, and the Parks and Rec is working on a survey right now to send out. We've been trying to work with the HOA for a long time, and HOAs are kind of, I know that everybody's busy, and so it's hard to maybe interact with them, but we're determined to do it, get a survey out through the HOA on what elements would want to be in that park, and then start putting some of those in this summer, and then maybe finish it out the next summer. It'll probably be a more simple park, just a little neighborhood park versus a larger community park. But the Parks and Rec is looking at the survey. They're going to send it to the diversity, equity, and inclusion, because one of the council goals was to make sure that parks are inclusive, which is different than just being accessible, I have learned recently. And so it's in process though, but yes, that's another
Well,
city.
that HOA recently turned over its, well, I don't know, they hired on a whole new committee or something, or a company to help with it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I just see my fees go up as well.
Okay. Well, that's a city park, so we'll try to keep working on that too. All right. If anybody needs to run, I know Jeff, probably you're at work, and feel free to go, but we'll try to wrap it up soon unless there's more questions or anything.
I move we close the meeting.
Okay, and we'll gather again next month.
Sounds
Got
great.
a Got a
Can
second
we
there?
just be weary of spring break is next month too?
Ooh, yes, spring break. Thank you very much for that reminder. Yeah. And if we have a new, well, we won't by then. I was gonna say, if we have a new city manager, you can meet the new city manager at the next meeting, but probably they wouldn't be starting yet, so. Anyway, but we want to hit budget season. So we'll watch for spring break. We'll get another meeting, and I appreciate all of your input. Helping us do this.
Thanks a lot, Melanie.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
I second it.